Michael Fletcher seemed to have it all: a successful career as a lawyer, a loving wife, and a beautiful child. But beneath the surface of his seemingly perfect life, cracks were forming. When his wife Leann tragically died in their home, it looked like a devastating accident. However, as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a web of infidelity, greed, and chilling deception. The truth behind Leann's death would shock everyone and expose a story no one saw coming. Welcome back to X by X Confidential. Thank you for joining us for another deep dive into the shocking and mysterious world of true crime. We work hard to bring you stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. And if you're enjoying this video, make sure to smash that like button to let us know. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you'll be the first to know when we uncover more jaw-dropping cases. Now let's get right into today's incredible story. To understand how this case unfolded, you have to go back to the beginning of Michael Fletcher's affair. On the surface, Michael was the definition of a family man. Married to Leann, a loving and devoted wife, and father to a 2-year-old daughter, he seemed to have everything. But for Michael, the life he had built began to feel like a cage. When Michael Fletcher met Leann, it must have seemed like a storybook beginning. Leann was beautiful, kind, and devoted. She stayed home to care for their 2-year-old daughter, pouring her energy into building the family life Michael claimed to want. As an attorney in Hazel Park, Michigan, Michael appeared to have it all: a successful career, a loving wife, and a picture-perfect family. But sometimes, appearances are just masks for deeper truths. Behind closed doors, Michael Fletcher's life was unraveling in ways no one could have imagined. His career as a lawyer wasn't as prestigious as he had hoped. The pressures of fatherhood and marriage felt more like obligations than joys. Leann was the kind of person who saw the best in people, even when there were cracks in the surface. But Michael had grown restless. His career, while steady, wasn't as glamorous as he'd hoped. And his marriage, though outwardly perfect, no longer thrilled him. Then came Judge Susan Chassk. She wasn't just a respected legal figure in the community. She was captivating, confident, and held a kind of power Michael couldn't resist. Their paths crossed in the courtroom and legal circles of Hazel Park, Michigan. At first, it might have seemed professional: discussions about cases, court schedules, and legal strategies. But the boundaries between their professional and personal lives blurred quickly. What began as lingering conversations turned into private meetings. Susan had a magnetic pull on Michael. She was everything he wanted to be: respected, admired, and ambitious. For Michael, being with Susan wasn't just about the thrill of the affair. It was about aligning himself with someone who reflected the image of success he so desperately craved. Their relationship wasn't discreet. Co-workers whispered about the two of them sharing private moments in the courthouse. Lunches turned into late-night rendezvous. Susan wasn't trying to hide it either. She wasn't afraid to let Michael feel like he was part of her world. Leann, at home, was far from oblivious. She noticed the changes in her husband: the distracted looks, the nights he worked late, the emotional distance. She questioned him, but Michael brushed her off with vague excuses. Still, she couldn't ignore the pit in her stomach, the feeling that something was terribly wrong. For Michael, the affair was intoxicating, but it also came with consequences. Susan, a powerful judge, was someone who couldn't afford scandal. She wanted Michael to be fully hers, and that meant Leann had to go. Michael, meanwhile, was caught in a trap of his own making. Divorce wasn't an option, not for someone as image-conscious as he was. Divorce would ruin his career, his finances, and potentially his relationship with his daughter. He believed the only way forward was to eliminate Leann altogether. His infatuation with Susan and his desire to maintain his image led him to plan the unthinkable. Michael wasn't just unfaithful, he was calculating. Every moment spent with Susan added fuel to his twisted logic. And there was something else: money. Michael's financial situation wasn't as solid as it seemed. A divorce would stretch him thin, and he couldn't afford to let that happen. In Michael's mind, there was only one way out, and it wasn't a fair or honorable one. He saw Leann not as his wife, but as an obstacle, a problem to be solved. His affair with Susan gave him the motivation, and his desperation gave him the push. What happened next wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a plan, cold and calculated, disguised as a tragic accident. On August 16, 1999, Michael suggested something unusual. He told Leann they should go to the shooting range so she could learn how to handle a gun. Maybe he framed it as a fun activity, a way to bond. Maybe she agreed because she wanted to keep the peace. Whatever her reason, Leann went along with it, not knowing she was walking into a trap. At the range, witnesses would later recall seeing them together. Leann looked uneasy, hesitant to hold the weapon. Michael, on the other hand, was calm and in control. Too calm, perhaps, for what was supposed to be a casual outing. He was already laying the groundwork for his story. Later that night, Michael called 911. His voice was frantic as he told the operator that Leann had accidentally shot herself while reloading the gun they had practiced with earlier. When paramedics arrived, they found Leann unresponsive in the bedroom. The gun lay nearby, and at first glance, it seemed like a tragic accident. When investigators first arrived at the Fletcher home on August 16, 1999, the scene appeared to tell a simple story. Leann Fletcher lay unresponsive in the bedroom, a gun nearby. Michael, frantic, explained that Leann had accidentally shot herself, but seasoned investigators knew better than to take appearances at face value. The first red flag was the gun itself. Its position near Leann's body looked too deliberate, almost like it had been placed there rather than dropped naturally. Crime scene investigators noticed that the blood spatter patterns on the walls and floor didn't match Michael's account. Instead of showing the chaos of an accident, the patterns suggested something more controlled, more calculated. The autopsy revealed the next major clue. The bullet had entered through Leann's ear and was fired from several feet away. This completely contradicted Michael's story of an accidental, self-inflicted shot. The trajectory of the bullet was also off. It was the kind of angle that could only come from someone standing nearby. Gunshot residue tests sealed Michael's fate. Forensic experts explained that when someone fires a gun, tiny particles of gunpowder stick to their hands. Leann's hands showed little to no residue, which meant she hadn't fired the weapon. But Michael? His hands had clear traces of gunpowder, placing the weapon in his hands at the moment of the shooting. Ballistics experts reconstructed the firing angle, proving that the gun had been fired from a distance, further disproving Michael's version of events. Blood spatter analysis showed that Michael had been standing close to Leann when the gun went off, directly contradicting his claim that he wasn't in the room at the time. Investigators also began to dig into Michael's life, uncovering his affair with Judge Susan Krasinowski. Witnesses came forward to describe how open the two had been about their relationship, and the financial troubles Michael had been hiding added another layer of motive. Michael had overextended himself, and a divorce would only make things worse. Leann's death, it seemed, was his way of solving all his problems at once. As the evidence piled up, Michael's story unraveled. Investigators connected the dots: the affair, the money troubles, the forensic inconsistencies, and the staged crime scene. It was clear to them that Leann's death wasn't an accident. It was a murder planned and carried out by her husband. On September 1st, 1999, Michael Fletcher was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Michael Fletcher's trial began with the prosecution laying out a devastating case. They didn't just present a theory, they presented science. Forensic experts testified about the gunshot residue, the blood spatter patterns, and the bullet's trajectory. Each expert reinforced the same point: the evidence didn't lie, and it all pointed to Michael as the shooter. The prosecution also painted a vivid picture of Michael's motive. Witnesses described his affair with Susan Krasinowski, detailing the intimate moments they shared, and the way Michael had seemed eager to leave his marriage behind. They spoke about how Leann had suspected something was wrong, and how she had been trying to hold her family together, despite her fears. Financial records were introduced to show Michael's growing money problems. The defense tried to argue that Leann's death was a tragic accident, but their case fell apart under the weight of the forensic evidence. Experts explained, in painstaking detail, why the shooting couldn't have been self-inflicted. The science left no room for doubt. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated. On November 10, 1999, they returned with their verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. For Leann's family and friends, it was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but it couldn't bring Leann back. Michael Fletcher was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The judge didn't mince words during sentencing, calling Michael's actions cold and calculated. Leann Fletcher was only 28 years old when her life was taken, but the trial ensured that her story wouldn't be forgotten. The investigators, forensic experts, and prosecutors worked tirelessly to uncover the truth and hold Michael accountable. In the end, their efforts brought justice for a young mother whose life was taken far too soon. Her story serves as a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors and the power of forensic science to uncover the truth when someone tries to hide it. Thank you for watching X by X Confidential. We hope you found this case as gripping as we did. If you enjoyed today's video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next deep dive into the dark and mysterious. What do you think about this case? Did justice prevail, or is there more to the story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.